Kevin McCarthy constantly pushes lies about his political opponents. Eric Swalwell, in 2012, this is true, he had what appeared to be a Chinese spy on his campaign staff. He was informed of this, and what did he do? Exactly what the FBI asked him to do. It's not a surprise that you would have a politician infiltrated. But how that politician reacts to it is important. Eric Swalwell, textbook correct reaction. I have all kinds of beef with that guy, none regarding the supposed Chinese spy. Actually, no, I believe that person was indeed a spy. I have no issues with how he handled that situation. This is not like Maria Butina, who the right ran defense for right up until it was too embarrassing for them to keep going. Well, Kevin McCarthy has told lie after lie after lie about that. And frankly, basically anytime he opens his mouth about his political opponents. The consequences are death threats. As we saw with Nancy Pelosi's husband, sometimes people try to follow through on those death threats. That's called stochastic terrorism. Meidas Touch once again nails it. Let's have a look at, I believe this is Ben Meiselas' coverage of this particular story.
I'm Ben Meiselas from the Meidas Touch Network. In addition to being the weakest Speaker of the House, MAGA extremist Kevin McCarthy is also incredibly dangerous because he just does the most reckless things in the world, including just defaming anyone, because for him, words don't even matter. Integrity doesn't matter. In the most recent example, he was giving a press conference and he was gaslighting the press and he was saying, look, now that I'm the Speaker of the House, we're going to let all the Democrats go on whatever committees they want. And then the press pointed out, well, that's not true. You're saying that Congressman Swalwell and Congressman Schiff and Congresswoman Omar, they can't go on committees. And then McCarthy proceeded to lie about Eric Swalwell, misrepresent that he couldn't get a security clearance by the FBI, and also lie that the FBI gave some secret briefing about Eric Swalwell, which would preclude him from being on the Intelligence Committee or any other committees. Again, all completely false. Unlike Donald Trump,
Let's just pause it there for a second, just to highlight, we have the benefit of looking over VOD, just to highlight the bizarre nature of that claim. The FBI gave a secret briefing. It didn't happen, but if they had given a secret briefing, why is McCarthy talking about it? Asinine.
A bunch of these other MAGA extremists like Ron Johnson and Carter Page, and I could go on and name others who, when the FBI contacted them that they were being targeted by foreign influence operations, Eric Swalwell cooperated with the FBI and they said he did everything right, and they did not say he couldn't get a security clearance. So just more lies. But I'll play for you a little bit later in this video what Kevin McCarthy actually said. But what I want to focus on is how these lies have real world repercussions, because what it actually led to was Eric Swalwell getting many death threats. And one of the death threats he got was somebody by the name of Jonathan Reeser. I'm going to read for you, and I'm going to give you a trigger warning because what Jonathan Reeser said is absolutely disgusting. But before reading it, I want to give you some good news, is that Jonathan Reeser was ultimately identified in terms of where he worked for, and his employer terminated him. And it just shows that these radicalized MAGA extremists who think that this type of rhetoric that they believe, like Donald Trump and Kevin McCarthy, get away with in their own Republican echo chamber, doesn't actually work in the real world. So let me read for you the statement.
All right, so I've done it again. There we go. So I don't recall the fate of this guy, but I don't believe, that there was criminal charges filed against him for making these threats. When you use intimidation to try to change policy, that is quite literally the definition of terrorism. The threat of violence to affect politics, that's terrorism. What I don't like, Ben Meiselas says it's good news. Is it good news? He says it's good news because the guy got fired. Those are the consequences. I don't give a damn. I don't care about this guy's employment. That is, I mean, at a minimum, I would hope he'd be fired. I would like to know, number one, is this guy going to have criminal charges filed against him for threatening a politician? And two, is Kevin McCarthy going to get charges filed against him for stochastic terrorism, for engaging in politics by way of sicking crazies on people? I understand we have to be very careful about our freedom of speech, but we also can't pretend like we're idiots. McCarthy can't pretend like he doesn't know what's going to happen. How many times have we had representatives out loud now share the threats they get? The threats reference lies McCarthy has told. There must be legal consequences for this. I'd appreciate it if you would tell the DOJ. Your old pal Jake's told him a few times, the link in the description. But if it's just me, that's not enough. Doesn't take a whole lot of people. But it can't just be me. Tell them you want Republicans held accountable when they engage in stochastic terrorism. Let's get the details from Ben Meiselas.
Though that Jonathan Reeser wrote, and I'll read you some of these other disgusting and despicable death threats that Eric Swalwell received, but this is what Reeser wrote. Reeser wrote, "You effing traitor loser, ha 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 ha, and you are so proud when you go to sleep every night. I hope your family is raped and murdered, and I hope you get tied to the back of a truck and drug 10,000 miles until your body is ripped to pieces, you scum. I wish I saw you in person. I'd break your effing face so fast you'd have plastic surgery and never look the same again. Try me, pussy."
Okay. Just want to be clear. I hope that's not a threat. It's just a mean thing to say to someone. So everything after that in that sentence, I don't care about. I wish I saw you in prison. Here we go. I'd break your face so fast you'd have plastic surgery. There's a threat. If I see you, I will do X, Y, yada, yada. And look, maybe a prosecutor looks at this and says, he says, hypothetically, I wish I saw you in prison, I'd. Okay. This is not an uncommon thing, this message. I have received these myself, working in an industry where I was utterly unknown. That's how common these are. Plenty of them cross the line into obvious threats. McCarthy's got to be held responsible. It's that simple. Because it's going to keep going until someone follows through, in which case, then the rhetoric will die down for a while. Then it'll start right back up.
Is what he says. And then Eric Swalwell posted the direct message that he received from Jonathan Reeser, and Eric Swalwell said, Does anyone know Jonathan Reeser of Indiana? Why would he say and threaten to kill my family? Here's his LinkedIn, and ultimately people were able to find Jonathan Reeser, and Jonathan Reeser worked at Patient's Choice Laboratories. He's an employee there at Patient's Choice Laboratories. They terminated him when they found out. They conducted an internal investigation very swiftly, found out that this employee said these things, and they terminated him. Here was the statement that was released by Patient's Choice Laboratories. They said, "We were appalled by the recent comments made by one of our employees. We do not stand for or condone offensive or threatening behaviors. Not only do these comments violate our social media policy, but they violate our company's moral and ethical standards and will not be tolerated. After an internal investigation, the individual has been terminated, effective immediately, and is no longer affiliated with the company." Signed, Patient's Choice Laboratories.
This is not a knock on Patient's Choice Laboratories, just a statement of fact. The reason companies do this is not because they are personally offended. It's just a side note. Maybe those people were, but that's not why they did it. They do it so that when this story is reported, you must say former before job title. Former employee of Patient's Choice Laboratories, a former healthcare worker, etc., etc., etc. It's a callous world, man.
But that type of apology and that type of internal investigation will never take place in the MAGA Republican Party. The MAGA Republican Party is fueled by violence. It's fueled by the staples of fascism. It's fueled by the threats. It's fueled by the lies. It's fueled by the hate. It's fueled by the disinformation. And Eric Swalwell posted a number of others, and he explained. He goes, "Since Speaker McCarthy lied yesterday about me, in stark contrast to 3 FBI statements about my assistance, my family and I have been flooded with death threats. Here's the latest. Who is Austin E. Taylor?" Another person who gave him death threats. And Swalwell receives these death threats all the time.
Just to give you a sense of the character of the people we're talking about, the guy's family is getting threatened. What does the family have to do with it? It's a sort of morality we're dealing with on the other side. I don't like what X person did, so I'm going to make a threat against their kids? Not only have we put up with this for way too long, by we, I mean civilized Americans. Not only have we put up with this for way too long, we cannot afford to put up with it any longer. This is becoming the American Taliban. We already have them forming armed groups. The Wolverine Watchmen were one such group. They were busted in an attempt to kidnap and kill the governor of Michigan. They were going to plant a bomb on a bridge in order to slow the police response. We cannot afford anymore to ignore this. Ben Meiselas, this is not a criticism of his here, a criticism of him here. He's got a different kind of show. But the implication seems to be all this bad stuff, so vote left. Okay, sure. Every 2 years you have an opportunity to move the scale slightly. In fact, it's a great video. There's like 11 minutes left of it. And while I appreciate his work, I also don't want to spoil your opportunity to watch it as well. The link is in the description. So yeah, we could vote left every 2 years and try to convince friends and family to vote for sane people every 2 years. It's a long time to keep all this in your attention span. It's a long time to make people aware of this. That requires people to be constantly engaged with politics. so that on one night in November, every 2 years, you can move the needle a little bit. That's not a practical plan, frankly, and that is not a plan that has worked very well. America has drifted farther and farther right. We've fallen behind, well behind, the rest of the world. Your standard Democrat these days would be considered center-right in just about any other country in the world. Any country we would care to visit, let me put it like that. The answer to this behavior is to treat it like it is. It's criminal behavior. If somebody had robbed a bank in your town and the police simply didn't respond, person shoots 2 tellers in the head, kills them both, while the vault is open, they run into the vault, grab all the money, and then they just go home. They don't even rush home. They just drive casually. No police stop them. What do? In fact, it's your neighbor. You saw it happen. You see them spending the money. What do? Well, you contact the authorities. That's what to do here. All that is necessary for a massive cultural change in the United States is for the right wing, for the first time in American history, to be treated the same as everybody else. That's it. For that to happen, the people in charge of enforcing laws against these people need to know that you see they are not doing it. They think you're dumb. And they think you are ignorant. They have to think both those things in order to do what they do. Because they know you hear Kevin McCarthy telling lies about Eric Swalwell, about Joe Biden, about this, that, and the other thing. They know you hear that. They don't know that you know the truth, that they are not lies. That they are lies. And that they are not doing anything about it. That has to change. You got to contact them. It's that simple. They have a form, a web form that you can fill out. You write a message to the DOJ. You want to know what specifically it is that McCarthy's engaged in? This, stochastic terrorism. Tucker Carlson, by the way, does it just about every night. He says things that he knows are A, untrue, and B, are going to get other people, are at the very minimum endangering other people. Stochastic terrorism is the public demonization of a person or group resulting in the incitement of a violent act which is statistically probable, but whose specifics cannot be predicted. For example, the lone wolf attack was apparently influenced by the rhetoric of stochastic terrorism. We arrested people for this not too long ago, when the stochastic terrorists were Muslim and they were advocating for people to join ISIS and fight the great American devil. Yeah, we arrested people for that. But if it's a Christian nationalist publicly demonizing trans people, which often results in lone wolf terrorist attacks, for example, Pulse nightclub, no action is taken. None. And at a certain point, and I don't know when it was, but we've passed it. At a certain point, it becomes our fault as well for not insisting that our Justice Department attend to the matter of justice. So, if you feel bad about that, and boy, I do, great way to feel better is to do something. What can you do? You can contact him. You can say that you want, at a minimum, an investigation into this activity. At a minimum. It is not an unreasonable... We are gaslit. Constantly gaslit. And treated like the demand not to be attacked is being a social justice warrior. First of all, you're goddamn right I'm a social justice warrior and proud of it. I think that's a cool-ass name, and I'm really into social justice. So yes, I will take that label. But we are said to be whining, or a bleeding heart is the older term they used, simply for insisting that Americans be safe in America. No more. It's got to end. We cannot put up with it anymore.